Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? This is the Worthy Cause Podcast. I am your host, Preach Jacobs, for the Arena Network. The Arena, the place where you can find people within arts, music, culture, and politics in the state of South Carolina, and people that make this place a dope place to live. I'm really, really excited about our next guest. Her name is Jonnieka Farr, who is a candidate for the House of Representatives, District number 79. She's the head of a nonprofit called Northeast Columbia Empowerment Coalition. She is a business analyst, and she is running for District 79 on June 11th as a district that she's been in for a while. We're here to hear her story. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it. It's been a way to get here, but we're here. So I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So one of the things I like to do, I have like a thesis that I always start with when I'm doing this pod, where, you know, I come from a creative community, and I've always been told when I was growing up, if you want to do anything, you need to get out of South Carolina, move from South Carolina, go to New York, go to Atlanta, go to the West Coast. And as I got older, I realized that if I stay in South Carolina, that in itself is a revolutionary act. So my question is, why South Carolina? What made you stay? What made you come here? And tell us kind of your story and how you got to this point where you wanted to run for this position.
I like that. I like that. The why, because when you understand the why of anything, it makes the task much easier. And so with that, I say that I'm here because of military affiliation. I grew up as a military child, and then I ended up marrying a military guy. And so we were stationed in Hawaii, and then we got orders to come here. And I thought, South Carolina, okay, I've never been here. I've never thought about living further down in the South. And when we got here, there's something about South Carolina that made us stay. We decided to stay here after getting out of the military. And what I loved about it was the cost of living. Was much cheaper than anywhere I'd been. And then in the area that I live, which is the northern part of Columbia, which they call the Northeast, the schools were supposedly supposed to be really good schools. And so I thought about my upbringing and how I moved around so much, and I wanted some stability for my children and my family. And so we decided this was going to be our home. And this is the place that I've lived the longest. And so this is my home. This is my roots. You can't kick me out. And that's my story of why I'm here.
Well, I guess also, you've been in that district, I think you said about 20 years.
Yes.
So it's one of those things where you're aware of it, you know of it, and you have the advantage of traveling a bit and being around to know, like, hey, this is the place I want to be. What are some of the main things that you see as a need for the district that you're running for?
Awesome. So one of the things that I've seen and throughout my time of being here is how much we've grown. And so you think about growth and how growth has some growing pains, but growth also has beauty. And for us, I think that it brings diversity, and there's beauty in diversity. And I wholeheartedly believe that diversity is not a problem. It's our promise. And with that, it allows us to embrace other things that are different than we are. And so I really appreciate how diverse our district is. But with that, of course, we have some issues and concerns in our district. What's top of mind for me is an increase in gun violence. It's quite alarming, and there's some unprecedented things that we've seen. Like we've had drive-by shootings in our area that's never happened, where a 9-year-old was shot in his home. And,
Wow.
You think about some of the recent laws that have been passed, and one, for instance, is the constitutional carry gun law. And no one is saying we are against Second Amendment rights, but we have to have sensible gun laws. And allowing 18-year-olds to carry weapons without a permit, without a license, does not make us safer. Allowing
Yeah.
anyone, without that. I took the class in 2020 and I learned some things that I had no idea of. And I'm above upwards of 40. And so I think training and being sensible with our gun laws is very important. So safety is a big concern for us, number one. And then in this district, because of that growth, we have an infrastructure that is unable to keep pace.
Hmm.
It seems that infrastructure and builders are not in the same room together. And that brings us to our 7-year story of Hardscrabble Road. If you're familiar with this area,
Yeah.
we have an
Yeah.
issue.
My brother lives off Bar Scrabble. I'm very familiar with that. So
Mean. It's unfathomable. And you look at other projects that are being completed, and then they come back and do a little bit with us and then go and work on some other projects. And so for us, it's like enough already. I've even seen it's a documentary, a fake documentary that's been done on Hardscrabble Road. And it's funny. It's like we've been really dealing with this for 7 years, and enough is enough. So, we want to make sure that, of course, if there's growth, let's work together with the infrastructure to support it. So that's
mhm.
that's another issue. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was talking to when I get excited when I see black and brown people running for any type of political office, because there's this theory from this documentary about moving back to the South, and there's this guy who wrote about it in the New York Times in the documentary. He calls it reverse migration, where the idea is, hey, I know during Jim Crow and civil rights movement, there's a lot of black people that move to places like Detroit and Chicago and the West Coast. But he's encouraging, hey, black folks come back to the South because this is the largest concentration of African Americans. And if we're going to have any political power, that's going to be probably one of our best bets. Is there is there something that you feel kind of like when we're thinking about politics, we think about some people, we feel like they've been groomed for it. But I'm coming across a lot of people that say, I never thought I was going to get into this. I never thought I was going to run. Was that kind of your story as well? Or was this something that you had an aha moment that you was just like, you know what, I need to do this? Or was this something that you felt like this is always in line for you?
It's one of those aha moments. It's a thing that people talk about change, and it may seem cliche that you're looking for change and you're waiting for someone to bring about that change, but literally it's being the change that you want to see. And so having the courage and being unafraid to go and do what you see others are not doing. And so that's why I'm here. I did some training. I participated in this. It's called Emerge, and they
Mhm.
support women who are pursuing political aspirations or want to do campaigns, anything political. They kind of a training ground. So I did go through that program so that when I decided to run for office, that I had the know-how and the skill set that was necessary. But even without that, like you said, there's some people who understand and know that there's a calling and that they need to step up. There's a proverb that I love, and it's found in Proverbs 8:31, and it says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak up for themselves, for the rights of the poor and destitute. Speak up, judge fairly, defend the rights of all who are in need." And when I read that and heard that, it stuck with me for about 6 or 7 years. And so for a time such as this, that's why I'm here, speaking up, standing up, and being genuine in my fight to be a representative.
Look here, Reverend Farr. This is tell us about your work with the nonprofit sector for the Northeast Columbia Empowerment Coalition. Tell us more about that.
Sure, sure. So, our mission is to empower all sectors of our community through civic action and engagement. So, back in 2022, we saw a rise in youth and young people participating and doing things that were just not going to be best for their future endeavors. And our thinking is, if you ask young people to step up to the plate, to help out, to do things in the community, volunteer, they will. But you
Mhm.
also have to have offer them opportunities. And so we started our organization with the basis and mindset of having young people at the helm of us, helping us to support different sectors of our community. And so one of our first programs back in 2022 focused on young people and provided alternatives for them, because everyone isn't college material. And you don't have to go to college to have a viable and wonderful life. There's trades you can participate in. There's new futures in information systems and technology. You can get a certification, 6 months in welding or 60 days in welding. You can have a wonderful job. And so the opportunities, abound. And so we wanted to share that with them. If we're telling kids to stop this, stop those behaviors, stop participating in crimes and that, what is the alternative? So we offered the alternative. And that program was amazing. We partnered with the food bank. And so every event that we do, we have young people and we provide food for citizens in the Northeast area. And when we talk about empowering sectors of our community, we can't do it all, but we target one sector and we look at what are the resources available for that sector of the community. So we've done programming for single parent families. We've done programming for seniors. We're going into our third year in November of hosting a senior empowerment program where we have all sorts of resources available for them because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's so many of us that are doing good things in our community. If we come together under one umbrella and let the community know what's out there, I think that makes us safer, that makes us stronger, and it makes us more united. Our campaign message is unity, hope, and service. And that's what we're all about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when I talk to a lot of younger people that are discouraged with the political process. They think that the process is just going and voting, where I think civic engagement that's politics as well, right? Being involved in the community and figuring out those ways. And a lot of times you find that young people are already involved in the civic process. They just never been told that that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. One of the things I think is interesting is talking to people that are running for the first time for something, right? So there's a lot of people that are career politicians that have run plenty of times and all this type of stuff. So as a first time runner, or is this your first time, right?
No, this is not my first time. Yeah, I ran in 2020 for county council and I lost by 56 votes.
Which is wow. Which also proves the importance of people not thinking that local elections they have an impact, because I can text 50 people and they can pull up to that. So that's also like important for people to know that local elections, you can sway things just by small margins.
You can. Yeah, you can.
So tell us about this. So that was your first time?
That was my first time. And that year I ran twice. And the second time I ran, it was because the former councilman, he passed away. And so, there was another election and it's kind of sad, but anyways, here's where we are now. And, but the work didn't stop. I didn't win. But you look at, you're not winning, but the ideas that I had, like I really spoke a lot about youth engagement. And I believe that's just important. We have to have our youth engaged. And now in Richland County, we have our recreation center who is sponsoring programming specifically for teenagers between the ages of 13 and 18. And that's what I was asking for. We have to provide more resources and events and things for them to participate in. If we want them to be more positive, let's put some positive events and resources out there. And so, although I did not win, a lot of the ideas that I had have come into play.
So, what are some of the challenges that you're experiencing now that you can see how to work through because you've been through this process before? Like you're like, oh, okay, I know how to handle this much better. This type of thing, which, God bless you, because I think that to run for political office, it's a lot, right? Like it's basically you're always working, you're always available, you're a public servant, and to get encouraged to keep doing it. I get really excited when I talk to those people because I'm like, I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so what are some of the challenges you're
21
experiencing
Savage.
right now?
You said a lot. Let's talk about the 21 Savage song. A lot. It's
Exactly, right.
it's a lot. I mean, I couldn't put it into any better words except it's a lot. But I believe it's worthy, and my service, I believe wholeheartedly in servant leadership, being a community driven public servant. And I think it's worth what I'm doing, the sacrifices that I'm making. I believe that we should have someone who will be genuine in representation, who understands how important it is to be engaged and understand what's going on in their local community. And for me, it's for service. Like, I come from a long line of servicemen. My grandfather served in the Korean War. My dad served in the Vietnam War. And my mother served as a U.S. Army soldier. And so I just come from a long line of public servants. And, that just continues. And, when we have someone that's in the state house who's representing us, I believe understanding and knowing that you have someone in there who's going to be genuine, who's going to listen, and is going to act on their people's behalfs, not on some political realm. Although I am a proud Democrat, I will say that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But, the voices of those that I serve will be amplified and will be most important.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too is that, you know, um, Colombia is a weird place where it feels blue in a sea of red. The rest of the state might not look like Colombia.
Yes.
So you have to kind of really learn how to communicate, how to cross the aisle, that type of thing. So one of the things that I think is really, really important is that when I'm talking to younger people and people that are voting, and those people that make the decisions to stay in South Carolina, a lot of times it's, hey, I want to stay in South Carolina. Is there opportunities here for me? Jobs, growth. What are the things that you see can be active ways that if we're getting, if that idea of reverse migration is happening and you got people coming in? I think I spoke to someone that's running in Greenville, and there's a statistic that, in the next, 10 years, there's going to be like 200,000 more people moving into Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you not only have to have jobs for them, you also have to have roads for all those damn cars too. So hopefully that would help too, right? So,
Yeah.
so what are some of the things you see that, to retain these people in Colombia? What are some of the things that you can see to kind of help with job growth here?
I definitely see, you look at Scout Motors, that is in our area, and it's providing opportunities for people to come in with wages that we haven't seen before in our area, actually in our state. And I look at that as opportunity for people to come directly, not only to our city, but in my district, the district that I live in. The opportunities for advancement and growth is amazing there. And we do have a growing tech sector as well. And so I don't think people should sleep on Columbia. We are just as fast paced and growing, just as Greenville or some of the other places that you noted, Charleston. Well, yet and still, Columbia.
Yeah,
Charleston's a whole nother story. I've heard and seen some changes there, but
Look, I've seen and heard it as well. I mean, and I think traveling around, and I always have this lens of being an artist, that the reason that people are telling me to leave is because they're assuming that, the creative community, the artist community is so much better when you move out of South Carolina. And when I go to these places, I'm like, our creative scene, our innovative minds in Colombia and in this state are just as good, if not better, than a lot of these places that I go to.
yeah.
And I always say that these other places, I don't think they have better minds and better creatives. They might have bigger or better opportunities for them to amplify those voices. And that's where I think Columbia can kind of come in and help out. And this is why, I'm a business owner with an art gallery that want to amplify local artists, and we're making sure that we're hyper local when we have these artists in there. And so I feel Columbia is improving. I also feel like South Carolina is one of those places where there's constant reminders of the past, and Black folks in nostalgia, we can't do it the way white folks can do it because, I drive around and I see, Confederate buildings, Confederate signs, and seeing these constant reminders of a time that wasn't so happy. So I look at things where when I hear young people and young people of color or young Black people that are discouraged about the political process, they feel like their contributions don't matter. I would ask, what I think is really important is to get younger people galvanized. And so what are some ways you think that you can encourage younger people to not just go into a voting booth, but what are the things you can encourage them to do to be civically engaged into the community?
Totally making them understand how important local politics is. We talked about that a little. You talked about that briefly a little earlier. When it comes to national elections, we're voting for someone who is, for our whole country. But local politics are the ones who make sure that infrastructure, your roads are taken care of. If there's a stop sign that is fallen over that needs to be replaced, if there's high crime in your area, those local elections, voting for sheriff, voting for your councilman, voting for, you just spoke of the coroner, voting for those local positions are most important. And when they understand the correlation of the two, I think that engages them even more. And so I think explaining specifically how important their vote is and what it actually does, I think could really galvanize them even more. And then allowing them to know that politics is not here and people are here. Politics and people work together. And I learned that as chair of the Richland Democratic Women's Council. I learned that women have a voice in politics, and that, sometimes people think that politics is some far-fetched thing, and it's not. It's people and politics should work together. And so when they understand that and know that people who are in those positions are there for them, that should empower them even more to know that their vote matters.
Speaking of women in politics, as your phone is blowing up, I guess we got you at the right time. Like, look at, I would, you know what? This would be a great political strategy. Listen, hold on. I think that's an amazing political strategy. I would just say I did it on purpose. Like, I would tell people just to call me the whole time. They'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so busy," but I'm taking the time out. You can use this to your advantage. I'm telling you, this is going to be some direction for you.
Wow. Yeah, I've got another meeting. But, yeah, it's okay.
Okay, I'll hurry up and get you out.
Oh, no,
but the question would be
here.
Okay, I got time.
But you get it.
But one of the things I think is interesting too is that you're talking about women being involved in the political process, and one of the things that I always tell people is that the heart of Southern politics for me that really make change is not only women involved in Southern politics, but specifically Black women. So when Stacey Abrams turned Georgia blue. And a lot of times when we talk about, national politics in South Carolina, there's always this assumption it's always going to be red, but there's an opportunity here for that. So when I see certain policies that impact women, I wonder, and I know this is probably, this is outside of like a specific district, but South Carolina politics nonetheless. What kind of conversations have you been hearing from women about their concerns, whether it's gun violence or the reversal of Roe v. Wade? What do you think needs to be the focus or the conversations that need to be had about women in South Carolina, whether it's their rights or whether it's the lack thereof?
Exactly what you're stating. As I speak with women, that is what's top of mind. The recent passage of the 6-week abortion law. It's an infringement on women's reproductive health. It's not even a point if you agree with abortion or not, but it's about women and having the right to have a private decision within a doctor's office between them and their doctor. It should not be legislated. And so women, I don't care what color you are, what race you are, women are upset. And you will see right now in South Carolina, we have an unprecedented amount of women who are running because of that issue. It just seems when you bring up Roe v. Wade, we are in reverse 50 years. We have been taken back 50 years. And I look at the recent law that they're passing in Louisiana right now, where they are legislating the abortion bill to where you can be charged is a crime to have that without a prescription. And it's just, women's rights are literally being attacked and trampled on. And so that should galvanize more women to participate in the process. You look at the statistics here, again, for women, how we have no women on our Supreme Court. And we only have 5 women in our Senate, and then less than 20% of the representation in the state house. But we comprise more than 50% of the population here. Representation matters, and we need more women to come out and speak up and stand up, like that proverb that I spoke of.
It's funny. I was speaking to Jonathan Ige, the author that wrote the King biography that just won the Pulitzer a week or two ago, and one of the things that he said that was really interesting. He said that in 1955, when Rosa Parks was arrested, the movement called on Martin to speak up about it. And he initially was like, "Nah, I don't want to do it," right? Because we forget that when we look at these civil rights leaders, that we think of them as these people that are always these leaders, but we don't think about, Martin was a young man with a young wife and a young family. He understood, like, yo, if I get involved in this civil rights movement, it's a lot that's going to be necessary to do it. And so to hear that he was hesitant with these things, and the fact that he did it anyway, those are the things that I really respect, because there's a thing where he's basically like, look, I might not initially want to throw my life and my family's life into this, but I feel compelled and it's necessary to do it. And I think that more than the large amount of women that are running right now, I think, during the Black Lives Matter movement, you saw a lot of Black and brown people getting involved in the political process. That's not just, that's not just sitting by and letting other people handle the policy. I think that those are the things that so many people are like, I didn't see myself getting involved in politics, but I felt like I needed to do it. So,
Right.
So I'm excited about that. I'm wondering, 2-part question. I was going to ask, where do you see your District 79 in the next 5 to 10 years? Hopefully, I don't want you to say they're going to still be building these roads, but where do you see the district in the next 5 to 10 years, and where do you see the future of South Carolina?
For my district, I see that we will continue to have the growth, but I think with the upswell of the growth, we will definitely have an infrastructure that is in position to support it. We're in an area that people aspire to come to in our area, and so I can see where our schools are some of the best schools here in South Carolina School District 2. We allow for parents to have choices in this school district. So I can continue to see how our education system will support our children and just making us stronger in the future. We're really moving towards I think just progress. I don't know how any other way to say it except that we will continue to progress and become more united because we're diverse. And I think people are awake and they want us to be more united. And with that growth, making sure that everyone is taken care of and looked out for. I think that is a message that is ringing in our area. And then for the state of South Carolina, we are one of the fastest growing states in the nation. And so that creates that diversity that we discussed earlier. And learning more about each other, I think there's a willingness now to do that and embrace each other. It only strengthens us. And so I just see wonderful things for our state, the industry that is growing, that is coming here, and the projections that we've seen is only going to progress us and move us further along. So, we've got some kinks, but we're here to make sure those kinks are ironed out. You have wonderful people who are doing really great work, and we're amplifying community resources that are available. That was another thing that I find strength in, is that let's empower community resources that are available for people, because governmental entities can't do it themselves. But if we allow viable community organizations to support our communities, our district, we're better for it.
Look here, I called you Reverend Farr. I'm gonna call you that again because you speak in the gospel. So I would say, if any parting words that you want to say to potential voters in your district or potential people that are in Columbia that might be hesitant to get involved in the political or civic process, what words of encouragement would you give?
You know, I think we've already talked about how important it is for them to be civically engaged, civically minded. When you have problems and you have issues and your concerns, the best process is the political process to get those issues resolved. The leaders that are in place, you hold them accountable, but you hold them accountable by being well educated and learning more about the political process and understanding how your vote really matters. Do not let anyone tell you any different. When we spoke earlier about my race and how I lost by 56 votes, I've heard of people losing by 2 votes or needing to flip a coin. You know, every vote matters. Do not let anyone tell you that it doesn't. And all of us working together will just make us stronger. With that, a vote for me, I believe, is the best option that you have when you look at someone who understands and knows what's going on in their community, who has been on the ground in the trenches doing work and supporting worthy causes. Having a voice like that in the State House, I think, would bode us well. We have a message of unity, hope, and service. And that is encompassing for all of us to move us forward because it's not my seat, it's our seat. And I want people to know that and understand that.
Look here, I told you. That's Obama's calling you right now.
But May 28th is early.
Right
May 28th is early voting. That's when we start early voting. And then June 11th is when we can seal the deal and truly have an authentic, genuine voice of somebody who's a proven servant leader. I promise you there's power in that. And we're ready to represent everyone in our district with a pure voice.
Look here, I look forward to the day that I can drive down that road and I'm not going to be stuck in traffic or have to drive around. And I want to give you the credit one day for making that happen. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. I'm really, really excited about anybody that's getting involved in the process, and you're doing great work, and I'm excited that you got to speak with me today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And remember, if there is any other questions, you want to do some research about me, you can go on my webpage at www.jfarforsc.com. And all of my social handles are at jfarforsc. But Mr. Preach Jacobs, I appreciate the opportunity of being here today. I didn't cover everything, but I think I covered enough, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I am here, and if you ever want to use this platform again to talk to potential voters or talk to people that's in the community, let me know. I think that I found my niche and what my job should be, and that's to amplify voices and people that are doing great things in the community like yourself. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you, sir.
All right. Now you can call back Michelle and Barack. Listen, this is the Worthy Cause podcast with Preach Jacobs from the Arena Network. Thank you to my guest, Jonnieka Farr, who is running for the House of Representatives District 79. This is the Worthy Cause podcast. I go by the name of Preach Jacobs. And until next time, peace.